Hi, I'm Dorothy Gable, author of Dementia Caregiving from a Biblical Perspective, and this is the Biblical Dementia Caregiving channel. These videos are created to help guide you through your caregiving journey, but are no substitute for medical care. If you or your loved one is experiencing cognitive difficulties, see a doctor. If you found this video helpful, click the like, and don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on upcoming videos on Biblical Dementia Caregiving. Today, I'm going to talk about denial's dead end. Denial, avoiding admitting the obvious. It's a natural reaction to unthinkable events, including the possibility that a loved one might have dementia. My mother was always faithful to send checks for our birthdays like clockwork. While we were in Canada sometimes, she would send 2 or 3 for my birthday and none for my husband. That was odd, but I shrugged it off. When we talked on the phone, she seemed less able to discuss abstract concepts, and I found myself changing the subject. After all, we couldn't expect to agree on everything. With dementia, if it is a slow change in abilities or an increase in personality quirks they already have, it's easy to rationalize away these changes. However, when we are face to face with the reality that our loved one does indeed have dementia, the time has come for us to push past our denial. At the same time, in the earlier stages, our loved one is aware that something's wrong. They're struggling with their own denial and trying to cover their tracks. If our loved one retains fluency, it's easy to go along with this. However, eventually, we will know they have dementia, and they do too, even if they won't admit it. There is a third kind of denial that occurs in the later stages. This is called anosognosia. I won't go into much detail about this topic. I have a recording of a talk I gave on this subject, Truth in Love with Anosognosia. The link is provided here. What is anosognosia and what does it look like? Our brain constantly updates our inner reality to match events and situations in our lives. For example, if I have a broken leg, when I wake up the next morning, I know I have a broken leg. To do this, our brain utilizes at least 4 different sections to help keep up with these changes in our lives. As the diseases progress, some with dementia will no longer be able to update their eternal reality. They steadfastly believe they do not have dementia and cannot be convinced otherwise. This is different than the stubborn refusal seen in earlier stages. Here is an example. A dear friend at church told me that her mother was furious with her because she had gotten rid of her mother's furnace. At the time, this lady lived alone. Her friend visited her every day. During a bitter cold winter with temps below 0 Fahrenheit, her furnace broke. This appliance was an ancient octopus kind of furnace that had been converted from burning coal. My friend watched the repairman check the appliance and believed him when he said it could not be fixed. Her mom signed the check for its replacement, and they brought a new furnace, taking away her old one. A few days later, when this lady went down to her basement, she was shocked to see her furnace had been taken. Even though her daughter told her what had happened, showed her the contract and the check with her signature, her mother refused to believe her. Dealing with anosognosia is difficult, and I don't have the time to cover it here, but will in a later video. If you need to know about how to help your loved one when they cannot get past their denial due to damage in the brain, check out my video, the link that was provided earlier, or read the sections in my book. Now, we've mentioned 3 types of denial: ours, our loved ones, and anosognosia. I want to talk about how to keep denial from becoming a dead end. Why should we push past denial? Dementia is caused by terminal diseases. We'll never be able to diagnose, seek treatments, and learn how to help our loved ones unless we are willing to admit it exists. What do? Test the idea that our loved one might have dementia. They might not. Consult websites or books, such as mine, that step through the differences between normal brain aging and true dementia. I talk with people all the time who laughingly joke that they might have dementia because they forgot something. When I step through the differences, they usually smile and agree. It's probably just aging. If we can't run as fast, why should we expect our brain to work as well as it had when we were young? If there is a problem, your loved one should see a doctor. A number of conditions can create dementia-like symptoms, which, if caught in time, can be treated or reversed. And finally, if dementia is present, try to discern the type of disease, for each has its own trajectory, and the family needs to know what this is likely to be like. These topics are covered in my second video, Has Dementia Entered the Family? And my third video, What is Dementia? And links are provided for these as well. Once we accept dementia and have an idea of the type, it's the time to educate ourselves on caregiving strategies. Accepting dementia in a loved one requires us to accept that their brain is compromised and they cannot be tricked, cajoled, threatened, retrained, or convinced to change emerging behaviors. They cannot act the way they had before. They will be different. So what do? Find ways to help our loved one get through their day. We find ways to accommodate, adapt to these changes so that they can receive and give love, communicate, and participate in life. Our goals for daily life will change, but that doesn't mean joy, laughter, and love is gone. It is restored to the measure of our loved one's ability. This is extremely difficult for a spouse to accept when their loved one is no longer able to be with them the way they had been before. But they will show their love in different ways. If we have a spouse with dementia and are not willing to accept it, we will find ourselves hurt, irritated, and angry, frustrated, trying to make our loved one respond correctly. Stuck in denial, we are not looking for ways to accommodate, putting both of us into endless cycles of hurt and anxiety. Accusations, bruised feelings. Unless we accept it's dementia, how else do we handle what looks and feels like rejection, cruelty, or proof that they no longer care for us? The only way past this is to admit dementia has entered the family and decide to move forward. Those who have find ways to honor the Lord and their marriage by loving their spouse with all the creativity and kindness and gentleness the Lord can provide. Easy? No. Is it possible? Very. Yes, it is. To write my book, I discovered 2 excellent books by spouses who rose to this challenge. First one I want to talk about is A Promise Kept by Dr. Robertson McQuilkin. While a president of a Bible college and seminary, his 55-year-old wife was diagnosed with dementia. In a few years, he resigned to care for her full-time. His book describes the walk of love and life they had while they coped with dementia. He pushed past his denial and learned to love her in new ways. Even in this loss, however, I made a wonderful discovery. As Muriel became ever more dependent on me, our love seeped to deeper, unknown crevices of the heart. Though she never knew what was happening to her, as I cared for her, she responded with gratitude and cheerful contentment. It was no great effort to do the loving thing for one who was altogether lovely. My imprisonment turned out to be a delightful liberation, to love more fully than I had ever known. We found the chains of confining circumstances to be not instruments of torture, but bonds to hold us closer. But there was even greater liberation. It has to do with God's love. No one ever needed me like Muriel, and no one ever responded to my efforts so totally as she. It's the nearest thing I've experienced on a human plane to what my relationship with God was designed to be. God's unfailing love pouring out in constant care of helpless me. Surely he planned that relationship to draw from me the kind of love and gratitude Muriel had for her man, her insatiable, even desperate longing to be with me, her quiet confidence in my ability, and desire to care for her, a mirror reflection of what my love for God should be. That was the first discovery. the power of love to liberate in the very bondage imposed by unwanted circumstances. People don't always understand that. For in this world of me first and I have to take care of my needs, the call to dementia caregiving can look like a cruel prison. But Dr. McQuilkin found it a call to sacrificial care. As the Lord has loved us and gave himself for us, could we not make accommodations for our loved one with dementia? Keep a regular eating schedule if that's what they need? Choose to watch the TV programs they can handle or want to see? Overlook mistakes and social mannerisms, or listen to repeated stories? Another book by a loving spouse is Your Name is Hughes, Hannibal, Shanks by Lela Knox Shanks. In the 1990s, Lela's husband developed Alzheimer's. That was before all the books and websites and understanding of creative caregiving solutions. But this inventive lady found creative ways to care for her husband at home. Successful caregivers push past denial's trap to find caregiving solutions that return peace, laughter, joy, and love in the midst of a difficult valley. Don't be afraid, because finding ways to cope helps the family find their center again in Christ. For more on this topic, check out my book, Dementia Caregiving from a Biblical Perspective, Your Guide for the Journey, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, ChristianBooks.com, and WestBow Press. I have a Facebook page, Biblical Dementia Care. Thanks for watching. Made possible thanks to my videographer and producer, Ralph Gable, author of Electronics for the Inquisitive Experimenter.